you so much for coming. This is always fun to do, but it's much more fun with live people. I did 2 of the shows without anybody, and I was doing real well imagining my best friend back then. All of a sudden, I realized there's nobody here. This is much more fun seeing you. Thank you. Those of you who are watching at home, I hope you'll enjoy it. If you have questions, let me know afterwards. I start everything I do with 3 tips about flower arrangements that have made things easier for me over the last 30 years. Number 1 is to work on a surface where you can stand up well and your back doesn't hurt. It's no fun to create something beautiful and all of a sudden you realize you're hurting all over because you've been bending over. Number 2, if you're looking down on a flower arrangement, that's not how people are going to see it. They're going to see it around. So you want to get it up where you are not just looking down, but you're looking into it. That's number 1. Number 2, get yourself a good pair of floral snips. They are very sharp. They will cut you very well. You have to watch that. But they also cut stems rather than squishing stems. If we mash stems, they don't absorb water. So this is really important. And number 3, I have found a turntable to be one of the biggest helps for me. I'm not working to turn my arrangement. I'm not forgetting it as another side. This way, with a simple finger, I can turn it around and keep going. So that's really a help. And these are just the ones you use in your spice cabinet. Nothing fancy, just works well. I wanted to show you 2 things I've never done at Cedarfield, so I thought they might be new to you too. And one of them is the use of a candelabra and a floral wreath. This is Oasis done in a circle. You can get these at Michael's. You can get them at Joann's, I believe. As a place you can call me and I'll see if I know anywhere else. But you can do it. You can get different sizes. My favorite is about a 15-inch wreath, but it takes a humongous candelabra to support that and to have enough room in there. So we're doing an 8-inch candelabra here. So what I'm going to do, and I'll tell you where I'm going, I want to make sure when this is finished that it's gracious, lovely, full, and you can't see how I've done it. You can't see the Oasis. So I'm going to be working at hiding as well as decorating in here. And I've got a source of a lot of stuff. Someone said, oh, it looks like you picked on campus. You bet I did. Fortunately, Beth and I have talked a lot about that. She said, oh, it's sure nice when you can showcase stuff here. Good. That's real nice to hear. Also, there are so many pretty greens here, and my rule of thumb is to try to cut so that no one knows I've been there. So if you're getting a little snip of something, just don't do an obvious place. Look where the one is maybe down a little bit and not going to show as much, and nobody's going to mind you taking a little piece of this or that. And the green just does so much to help your arrangement be pretty. It breaks the flowers and gives you a contrast, which is just lovely. So this is my azalea. We have one really series of beautiful azalea plants, bushes, and they have these long stalks on them, and at the end there's a cluster. They're really special, nice and shiny. And I've just been gardening practically with my life until the fellas came a couple of years ago and made them lollipops. I said, ooh, can't happen again. So since then, we just kind of watched them, and the fellows who cut have been very gracious to leave a lot of that on there, because I can use these 3 seasons of the year. They're just really prolific. Okay, I'm doing a little inside and outside of this, just to kind of get myself a shape, and I won't have to worry about covering some of this later on. But you can get the idea that this is not super drapey over anything, but it's pretty. Now I'm going to try this. This is a little vinca vine from my next door neighbor. I didn't see her yesterday when I was cutting, but she said, please help yourself anytime. I love her. Nicest thing. So we'll see what this will do here. And I haven't tried it down below. I thought we'd try a little down line and see what happens on this. You can always trim it later. That's my philosophy. Try it. If it doesn't work, then just trim it off. But let's see, it might be pretty. And if this were being used on a dinner table, it's actually going to be pretty light in terms of a visual effect. You're going to be able to see under it, over it, around it. May have to move it during dinner, but if not, and someone doesn't have anything to think about, they can say, Look how that piece hangs down there. That's kind of interesting. So it becomes entertainment too. Okay, got that started. Let's see what we can do with some colors. Now, I bet you recognize these from down the street, right? There were a lot of them yesterday. But I want to tell you that it was almost hazardous duty. There were more bumblebees than you could count. And I'm saying, please, Mr. Bumblebee, there's enough for all of us. And fortunately there was. I didn't have any trouble. But I did realize I was taking life and limb in hand here. Look at the vibrancy of these colors. Just so interesting in terms of how bright they are. I always think of zinnias as primary colors. If you were getting a coloring book out, you would have some of these colors and could enjoy them thoroughly. Now, part of the challenge here is while I'm talking to you, trying not to put exactly the same color in each pattern here as this goes around, so that it does stay interesting. And the fact that these can come out some, I don't take them way out, but they actually could come out a little further. And if you've got a candelabra, I really encourage you to try this. It's just so much fun. You can see how hard it is, right? Sticking flowers in the Oasis. We can do this. Not a problem. And part of it with flower arranging is simply building up your confidence and realizing that if that arrangement did not come out exactly as you wanted it this time, try it again. And it's going to be a little different next time. So that has always helped. All right, let's see. Now I try, when I am doing this, to visualize about how many flowers will be in here, so I'm a wise steward and not cutting overboard. It's a real temptation. And I think today I have about a bucket of flowers left on the counter. Isn't that right, honey? Follow her own advice in here. So the point of this is to have things going in different directions so they can be seen from all points, and there's something to see. It's a little long here. Let's take him down. Okay, I'm going to switch to something else now. Ooh, I've got a lot to switch to, good. But there are some holes in here that I think need to be covered up. This is your standard Cuba that grows all over the place. Little teeny plant, it is so faithful. Looks like little blossoms when you put it in, the greenery does, all by itself. And it fills in real well at the same time. Can you see how this is beginning to fill in with little rosettes on here? I really love this stuff. And it comes in 2 layers when it grows. This is a newer piece this year, so it's got a teeny piece I can use a second time in here. And it seems to like to be trimmed a little bit, and it grows back real well. So that's a nice thing. And it's all over the place. Thank goodness. Now people say, do you know what you're making today? Well, I know I've got these flowers and I know what the end result is, but how it's going to go together, we're all in this together. I'm never quite sure. It sure is fun to give it a try and see. All right, let's see how it's doing. Let me take a look. I can still see some Oasis, so I've got some filling in to do, but I kind of like the way it goes. This is the only one coming down, but he was an earlobe and escaped in here. Let's see what else we got. Now this is called Solidago, and it grows in the garden very voluptuously. In fact, last summer it almost took over the garden down at Park Lane. It was everywhere. It was out in the street. It was just announcing itself all over. It is also known as goldenrod. Only, you'd be pleased to hear that. Only goldenrod's not your problem. It's what's the other one? Ragweed. Ragweed's the one that does you in. And this stuff is domesticated. So it has been bred not to cause you any allergic problems. And I have found that's true. I've never had anybody complain, right? For this being an arrangement. Now lilies, people really fuss about. In fact, we don't use many lilies here because it's hard to get the unscented ones. But this stuff is a friend of flower arrangers because it covers a lot, it lasts well, and it has this beautiful, beautiful yellow color in here. And it's tucked in, it just does real well. So I alert you to that, and when it's plentiful in the garden, you can certainly get a little bit of it. Now here's a hazard right here. I went too far in, and of course some came out the other side and can't get any water because the Oasis is the water source. So we direct him a little bit. And with the Solidago, if you've noticed, I've cut the tops out, and that gives a whole nother piece to work with. Let's see who needs something here. I have a feeling it's over here. Okay, there. All right, coming on along here. We have some more of that, but we also have some of this. But we have some of this too. Ooh, look at this guy. This is an Aster. It's like a little teeny daisy. And you can poke these in for just a little effect. And see how they're going to stand up. People say purple doesn't show up very well from afar, and it doesn't. If you use purple in a flower arrangement in a church, it looks like a black hole. So does burgundy. Disappears, completely disappears. And people who do flowers learn that the hard way sometimes when their magnificent arrangements have missing. Particularly on Sunday morning, you walk out like, I know I put flowers in that thing, and there's nothing there. That is really a disappointment. What are you doing? But these things are so sweet, and close up particularly, they just give you a real pop of color. And that's one of the fun things about flowers, how you can use the different sizes and different colors to add so much to something, which is what we're going to hope for today. Now this is not a very big project, but don't you think it carries a lot of weight in terms of looking at it visually? There's a lot to see. And I remember hearing that the value of flower arrangement is many things, but one of the things it is the number of insertions you put in terms of a florist preparing something. And I have always found I'm very partial to lots of little individual things. And I figure, oh well, that's the gift I get for doing it, is I have that opportunity to put a lot of little things in. Okay, let's see how we're doing. We've got something else. Ooh, we got two other things. These little guys are the black-eyed Susans, and right now they're really small, and they're not really good at lasting long. That's one of the downsides of them, but they're prolific. You always get a lot of them this time of year. And so if I am using these, and it's for something I'm going to keep an eye on, then I think, well, I can keep a supply of them and just switch them out and still get the beauty of adding this little kind of flower in here. And they're courtesy of the Parkland Garden too. So every one of them is a little bit different in size and a little bit of shape, and all kindred spirits, but have their own personalities in here. I like to kind of do an in and out. You notice some things are longer, some things are more compact. Depending on how big the arrangement is, a lot of times that shows really well. You can see different layers, and that makes an arrangement interesting. Now I'm looking at this from all different vantage points, trying to make sure that the Oasis doesn't snout too far. Ooh, I kind of like that. Okay, here's something else. This is called German status. I think there's another name for it, but that's what I know it is. And I've grown it for a number of years in my garden, and it grew about this tall. So my daughter needed something in a garden, and I said, oh, I got this neat stuff. It's low, and it's pretty, and so on. Went back to her house this summer after not being there a couple of weeks, and this stuff was 6 feet tall. Oh! I said, my, it likes you short. And she said, you think you could get rid of it? Oh, I know, it's beautiful. And she said, you have the bees like this? Oh, I'm so sorry. What a shame, what a shame. But boy, it did do well. I had no idea that stuff. You take off like that, she gets full sun, and that makes a difference. Now this stuff is very randomly put in on purpose. It's not supposed to fixate your eyes on any one section. If I look at that section, it's equal to not a chance. Much more fun this way. And then the final thing for your party is just these guys. If any of you happens to come across a huge candelabra, 3 or 4 arm that's round, I'm interested. My friend found one at an antique shop one time, and we stood in line to borrow that for special events. It was so pretty. That is your basic wreath and a candelabra. So I'm hoping you can go and do likewise. Anybody have a question? Anything with this? Thank you. What I would do if this were at home, I would put a towel underneath it, and every day or so, I would very carefully drop a little bit of water on it, just to freshen it up and keep it in good shape. And this would last 5 days or so. So it really is something that if you do it, you've got time with it. There you be, going through likewise. Now let's take this one over, clean up a bit here. Don't like to work in a messy space, it's a distraction, but I love these containers, so I'll do something extra with them. I have always felt that we have a civic duty when we're flower arrangers. And our civic duty means that if you're out and you have to carry your pair of scissors with you, because it's always good to have a pair of scissors with you, you trim if something's leaning over a fence, it's going to be pretty in a flower arrangement. You tidy up as you go. I'm sure that rose that's leaning over is not accounted for. And I've had some lovely, lovely experiences of finding pretty things and also meeting people along the way. What are you doing in my garden? No, I'm sorry. It's never been that bad. But it is fun to see what's available and out and then see what you can do with it. Okay, this is another idea for you. If you were going to a baby christening and there's going to be an urn in the church, a font, you can get a ring that fits on that font like this. I'm going to show you what we can do with it. It's similar to this, but it's a little different too. And these are just a treat because it makes it look so special for the family and for the infant. The infant doesn't care what family does. And so pretty. But let's see what we can do with it. Now, I always have this situation now where I never can remember where I put stuff in flower arranging, but I tried to isolate it this time. This is Boston Fern, and I'm hoping it's going to work as well as I think it will. And I'm going to do something very similar to that. I'm just going to kind of hide some green first, but with a different texture entirely from last time, and with a different line on this, because this can come down a little bit on here. Talking about picking here and there, people will say, what is that flower? And if I picked it in the garden, I say, it's gardenia. And they say, oh, really? If it's on the side of the road, you say, rhodesia. And they say, really? Right. Help. Identify slightly. It's my favorite on the side of the road story, though, was when some of you have heard this, I'm sorry, it's a good story. Our daughter was getting ready to be married, and her florist mother wanted to take care of this, and she said, Mom, I don't want you doing this. What? And she said, there will be no bows. What? So we hired my partner to do this. Mary, remember to talk to me too, don't worry. So Molly had real set taste in what she wanted, and she wanted some viburnum, which only grows in the spring, but this was a May wedding. They're the preview of the snowballs. They look like hydrangea, and they're super pricey. Oh my gosh. And I'm saying, this is the budget. Is that what you want? And Molly said, I really want that. I want that with some other white things, some white roses and stuff. And Mary said, I think we can do it. And I said, where are you going to buy her? She said, I don't know, I'm looking. So she called me and she was really excited. And she said, I found it. I said, what'd you find? She said, I found the viburnum. Where'd you find the viburnum? And she said, in the middle of the highway on a median. I said, how you gonna do that? And she said, I've got an orange vest, and I'm going to go do a little clipping, and I'm going to have a notebook if I need to. And when they ask me what I'm doing, I'm going to tell them I'm checking the effect of automobile exhaust on my body. Nuts! She had no problem, and I really to this day think she was disappointed that nobody asked her to check. I said, that's just my boy. But we did have some good times. I was out one time with the head of the Cathedral Altar Guild, and the hunt was on for bittersweet. And it was fall, and they went for Thanksgiving. And they found it, and they found it in abundance in a place it could be cut. There was a carload of them. Just 3 gals around, 3 gals in the car. And so went to get the bittersweet and got lots of it. Oh my gosh, it was just such a haul. And such a haul they couldn't shut the trunk of the car. And what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Well, Sally was a rather large lady. She was wonderful gal, loved working with her. And she said, don't look. Unhooked her bra, took it out, and shut the trunk. So I thought, sacrificing for flowers is many things. But that was certainly an interesting time, but it did the trick. This was the same gal who was checking on the cathedral. She lived very close to it. And she was checking on her on Sunday morning to get over there because they had high holy services all day long, practically on Easter. And realized as she got out of bed, it was 5:09. And I guess it's 5 or 7. She knew it was 7 o'clock. So she put on her bunny slippers and her robe and went tootling over there to hand out whatever had to be handed out at that time. I thought, what a gal. Not at all self-conscious of what needed to be done at the time and she did not. And that was really fun. This is a variegated, I think it's Uranus. You recognize it's that's what I think, And it's just so pretty. This is growing on our property. I was really glad when I inherited some nice bushes. That's such okay, I need to pick this up, get this done for y'all. Hold on, let's get a little more of this in here. This is a big guy. Now let's see, a little bit more of this and we'll go to something more interesting. But again, it has to have some kind of base in your art. I'm sure you've seen these outside. Here's something I'm learning. These are slightly antique hydrangea. It just means they've lived a little longer. And they are much firmer blossom right here, which makes them really nice to use. And they can be cut in so many pieces and still not wilt. And once they get to this shade, they are particularly wonderful to work with. So keep that in mind. And these are the ones that you can dry so well. If you put them in water and let them just gradually soak up the water, they will dry in the bucket a lot of times. And I say that a lot of times because generally with this, if I'm working with it, I try to pick more than I need of this because then if I have anybody who doesn't cooperate, I've still got enough to do. You can see how well this takes up space in here and fills in. And here's another thing. It's very helpful in this arrangement. This is some fresh moss. You can see how fresh it is because the fronds are still up. Now, I buy this from a wholesaler. And I'm keeping this batch in the refrigerator because we'll use it for a number of things with the flower ladies. But it also is a great space holder here so that you don't have something that's too busy. Now the big trick is green side up. I have to stop thinking about that for a minute. And this will spritz and stay fresh, which is a nice thing about it. Okay, that's plenty of moss on it. And now let's see what we can do in terms of blossoms. I have a big blossom thing over here. And I have some lovely stuff. I have a little more of this hydrangea, which I'd like to do in here just to start with. And the thing that's so interesting, if you look at this close up, you'll see that there are little blossoms and big blossoms and such as that. And again, you can see the advantage of being able to turn this turntable to just keep an eye on stuff. Okay, now comes some roses. Let's see what we can do with them. It's so pretty. And think about this as a little girl who's being baptized. And this would be something that might go, the family would enjoy too. Left some buds on these roses too. They're just so sweet. They spoke to me of that little girl. So I think we can do this. And these are just, as you see, randomly put in to go around here. And then I'll switch colors and do a little darker pink. As long as it all comes together in the end, that's what we're looking for. And I'm just spreading a little color around. I love having something like the hydrangea and the variegated green that will do some of this fill in. It's really a help to have a spot and be able to plunk something down in it. Something big in there. Now, I don't know if you've noticed that every time I put something in, I'm cutting its stem first. And that's to make sure that when this is in, it's got maximum chance of getting water because the stem is nice and a fresh cut. What we found with floral work is that if the stems sit out there for even just a few minutes, often it will seal that stem and it will never drink again. So if you want to make it sure it's extra fresh, you just give it a quick cut before it goes in. Okay, let's add something a little green to this. I love that color green. And this has gotten to be a really big color, I've noticed, in terms of what people like to use because it blends so well with the whatever material you've got. Just adds a little perk to it. Another thing, I'm putting these in probably about 3/4 of an inch, and that makes sure they're stable and they'll also get water. If they don't go in very far, chances are really good that they'll get bumped and won't do much at all. And that's kind of disturbing to put your work in and have something you want to take somewhere and not have it cooperate. Okay, we're getting on. Andy, just sit still, I'm almost through. Honest. Okay, did you see these in the garden? Do we like these in the garden? I think they're so sweet. You didn't see any missing, did you? But these I have found, if you pick them when they're just in the budding stage, they do very, very well in terms of placing your arrangement. Okay, let's see. We have just a couple more things. I have some darling little tulips. And I was just talking to the gal in Trader Joe's today, and I said, "Are you out of tulips yet?" And she said, "No." She said, "There's been a big demand for them, and we're getting them longer this year." From where are you getting them? Well, they're domestic tulip growers. There's one outside of Fredericksburg. I don't know what. And she said they're really keeping our supplies up. So I thought, oh, that's so nice. Tulips are the best. Of course, whatever's in my hand is the best. I really like the most. What's your favorite one? What am I holding? I do think hydrangeas have become more and more favorite, though. We have these lovely little red leaves. I'll put them in after. Okay, this is the last thing I want to add to this, and I don't know if you're familiar with this or not. I know you know baby's breath, but this is called wax flower, and this in particular is lady wax because it's got little tiny flowers and a lot of buds on it when it gets to the market. And it does the same thing as a baby's breath bunch will do. It just gives you something tiny, dainty, and it's a good filler. Okay, that's fine. All right. I'm almost through. Hang on. It's gonna work. No, it isn't. Okay, this can have a little more stuff. I see some spots that are just a little lean, but for the sake of showing you the next step, I'll get them later. All right, that's basically it. It does have a few holes. All right, you've had this wonderful christening service. The family's been there. The baby was excellent. Long, gorgeous. Oh, it's just so much fun. And you're going home for a party. You're going to have a reception after this baptism. So you have your tall candlestick, and inside here we have secured some ribbons. And we can take this guy off of here. Weighs 5,000 pounds. Not really. And put it over here. And then remove the font. And earlier on, we made a topper for this. And this becomes your centerpiece. And it's called a swinging wreath. Isn't that fun? And this will certainly see you through your party, and it will last into the next week, pretty much the week. So it's just a lot of fun. So this is a one that can be purchased wherever. I have not taken this out of the water very long, so it's coming out. But anyway, if you had it on a table, you'd have it on a tray probably. So, but that's just a lot of fun. And I think we're close to out of time, but we have a minute or so. Guy, we've got 2 minutes. You're so good. Thanks, Debbie. Okay, we have some serious leftovers here. So, what can we do with some serious leftovers? Let's see what we got. We got one I like that with it. Let's see what's over here. Oh, we've got a couple more zinnias. We've got a little of this and that. Whatever you have left over, what I want to encourage you to do is take whatever it is, bunch it, put something around the bottom. In this case, there's pretty coral bell leaves that didn't get used. And grab the scissors. Now let's get a piece of hydrangea first. Take a piece of hydrangea if you've still got any around here. First of all, put it in your container, like that. And then take a little bit of this. And you can either put it in the side, like so, to fill it up. I'm going to show you one more fast one with this. I'm going to take a little bit of hydrangea, right here, another one. Let's see, how about that? Whatever I got. That. Okay, start right there and pick up what's left. And put it in through the hydrangea. So using that as if it's your holder right here. And that's not real interesting, but I bet we can make it a little better. Aha, these are the zinnias that didn't make the cut. But they're going to last. And I have the best time with these on my kitchen counter. They're all around the sink. So when I look up when I'm doing something, I think, oh my gosh, isn't this pretty? So much fun to do. And you can do it with whatever you have. It just goes together. It's so much fun. And it just gives you something with the leftovers, so nothing goes to waste if we can help it. You've been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the highest and best, if I hear you come up and say, I went home and tried it, it worked. So give it a try. It's great. Thank you. Any questions about this? Anything you need to know? Anything of getting started? Go get your, just any candlestick will work pretty much if you have something to put on top.
What are the destinations for these beauties?
I certainly can if we've got a spot for them. Because this is just, this is one of my very favorites. I'll put it on the outside. Isn't that fun? Oh. And it's so much fun to say, I've got something after the service. So you can put a bowl in there, keep the water, so that's not a problem. Thank you, Daddy, for making it work.
Thank you so much.
A pleasure.